Hi, this is David Consumer. I think I've added a lot of features to poketrack since the last video, so I just kind of wanted to go through things. Also, there's a couple techniques. In all the playing with this that I've been doing while I've been making it, I've sort of remembered or just figured out some tricks to speed things up. So I'll try and show some of those too. Okay, so first thing is SFZ sound fonts are great for mapping a whole bunch of instruments, keys to separate samples, and then you can even map like if it's like this amount of volume, like play this. All the basic sound font stuff is like included, and I have pretty good support for sound fonts now. So I also made an SFZ editor. I'll put a link in the description, so you can make your own real quick. And the idea there is to kind of keep the process of like messing with samples and mapping all the keys and all that stuff, like keep that out of this sort of limited interface, so you can kind of set it all up ahead of time the way you want. But one thing to keep in mind is that when you've got a bunch of random SFCs from different places, they're not always like uniform. And the reason is just because anyone can make an SFZ, and it's just a text file, so there's not much of a standard there. Often people will kind of follow a standard, but you just can't really count on it. SF2s often were made for downloading directly to your hardware, and so they generally follow the MIDI standard a little bit more. But anyway, it's fine as long as you know that ahead of time. So here, let's look at this kit. So this came from CR78 from Mars, and let's see what it sounds like. So it looks like it does have the kick drum on C2, which is MIDI standard. But the snare is a little weird. So snares should be on D2. You should get a decent snare. But it seems like it puts them on the sharps for some reason. So that's just an example. You might have to like play with it a little bit, but it's not that big. So another thing is like I've got these multi-tracks. I think I talked about that in another video. That can be pretty handy. One thing I've been doing a lot with stuff is like if I'm doing a song view, I'll kind of keep each like in the hexadecimal, like the first digit, I'll use as like the track number, and that way I have like 16 tracks per. I have 16 tracks per sort of like part. So for example, I might do all my beats on 0, right? And so if I scroll through like this, I can go through all my beats, but then I just jump to 1-0 on 1, and 2-0 on 2, and 3-0, that kind of thing. And it gives me enough room to put in different kinds of parts and not have my patterns collide. But it also keeps it a lot neater, so you can see like right away. You can see like, oh, that's a drum. Because in here, you could kind of just do whatever you want. Like you could put drum part 1 on 0, and then you could put like drum part 2 on 3, and you can put your bass line on 1, and it just doesn't even matter. You can put them anywhere. And so kind of keeping it organized like that helps a little bit. That's like one little side note. But a setup might be something like this. If I wanted like the same beat on 2 parts, and I want maybe my bass line changes, I might do something like this, if that makes sense. So let's play with this. So I don't really want to add copy and paste. I've been really resistant because there's a lot of fiddly stuff you got to do to make it work. So Like, do you want to copy one track? Do you want to copy one pattern? What button does it get assigned to? How does that like override some other button? Things like that. I'm trying to keep it all very simple. That's like part of the idea. But you can save anything. So if I save this, I'll save it in, I don't know, I'll save it in the folder I was in. And you can see the name is Y. So if I press Y, here, we'll just expose, relax, swift cell lab, abstract sing cloth, pluck, hurry, alpha. Okay, perfect. So I do have this now. And so if I go to a blank pattern and I load it, I can just load it again. That's kind of like a copy and paste, I guess. It's not great, I know, but I'm just not sure of the best way to deal with it. So I don't want to complicate the UI, and I don't like overloading buttons or making them work different in different places. So that's part of it, is just I don't want to have to go look up like how do I do this like after I've learned it, you know, like after my fingers do the playing. I don't want to have to like go look things up. And so anyway, that's what that's all for. I am open to suggestions if anybody has any other ideas, but okay. So now we have two beat parts, and so if we look here, we've got 0 and 1. Now let's do our bass line. So so we need a new instrument for sure. Let's put something on 1, and I'm not sure what should go here. There's a couple things. I guess I haven't really talked about granular synthesis too much. It's just kind of weird, and you should play around with it for sure, but I don't think I want to use it here. I don't know if I talked much about FM synthesis. This is a pretty simplistic FM synth, but sure, let's try it. So first thing I always end up doing is I turn down the sustain. I should probably just set the default to much lower, but that's how it is. I'll set the attack to 0, release to 0. So with the decay, this should make kind of a little bassy thing. Okay, so we got something there. I'm going to slow it down a little bit. Okay, and on 11, let's do something very similar. So we'll go here, and we'll set the instrument to 1. Now, I don't know if I like that instrument yet. I don't even know if I like that melody yet. It's a little weird, but let's just see how it goes. Okay, so let's hear it all together. Sounds pretty cool. All right, so another thing about using these part numbers is like if you keep your patterns all together in the ones, like in the tens place or whatever, it's actually 16, but you know what I mean. So pattern 10, pattern 11, that kind of thing. If you keep them there, then it's really quick to go back and forth, like when you're working on bass, so you can kind of pick like what part you want. It's also quick to edit in here because you can just like increment 1 or 2, and then when you jump between like different patterns, you can increment like full, chunks, right? So that makes it really easy. Like if I want to increment to 2 right there, or 3 or whatever, it's just like one button away. That's sort of the idea there, is like just kind of sequencing things like that. I think I read about that, or I saw it on a video for like M8 or something. it's a good trick. It does actually help keep things like organized. Okay, so let's go back to our song view. Let's look at I want to check out our bass pattern. So let's see. This one's a little weird. I don't know. It's a little too busy, I think. I need to drop some of these low ones. And okay. So I'm not totally happy with my FM synth. It's a little weird, but I can play with it on the fly. Yeah, put some chorus on it. Sounds perfect. Okay, so all right, so that's like FM. What else is there? I'm trying to think if I've added any other things here. I don't know if I have. Oh, there is plugin. It's pretty weird. So get ready for that. Let me start with a new one, and I'll show you what that does. So. All right, so if we start on instrument 0, the idea with plugin is that it's a WASM plugin, so it's made with it's compiled to WebAssembly, and it works on every single target. So it'll work on the web, it'll work on all the native clients, everything like that. And the idea is like you don't have to recompile it, and you can make it in any programming language that compiles to WASM, which is pretty much all of them. And so if you like Rust or you like C or you like JavaScript, you can use like AssemblyScript. It's very similar. It's great. The problem though is that it's a real badly specified standard. And so a lot of the plugins that you might find, they're not going to compile directly to WASM, or they're going to have like issues even if they do. In here, I have some test ones. And like this one, for example, uses threading, so it has like weird issues. Threading doesn't work everywhere, and so it kind of works on native, but it doesn't. It definitely doesn't work on web, and things like that. So these can be kind of weird. I think the best way to deal with that is pretty much to compile. You can compile multiple units inside of one plugin. So one really good idea might be to just make a WASM of the code that you want, make all the little functions, like expose them, get them working, and then just kind of build it for like what you're doing specifically. Like build it for poketrack, like which means like use WASM 32, not 64. Don't use any threading, that kind of thing. As long as you follow those rules, and I'll put a link somewhere. I know on the README I have a whole thing about it, but anyway, so you can learn more about it. The standard is not very complicated once you get the hang of it, and you can build your own like really custom, really weird units in code, and they can do whatever you want. But here, we'll load one. This is a polysynth, and it's pretty basic. I think it's just like, a triangle wave, and that's what it does. So let's load with this one. This one has multiple effects inside it, or multiple units inside it. That's the terminology I use in poketrack. So this has multiple units inside. And so it has one that's like a kind of a demo like guitar effect style sort of thing. That's gain. And then a demo like producer, like a synthesizer. So we'll try synthesizer, and you can map any params you want, but this particular unit doesn't have any parameters, so it doesn't matter. But it does take notes, so you can do this. And I think it's just doing like a sine wave or something. So one thing to note is that these plugins don't really have any concept of like how poketrack works. They're not made for poketrack. They're made for like whatever. And so one thing in the tracker, most of my stuff I put like envelopes on all the things that produce noise. And the reason for that is that I don't want it to like keep playing like in the background for a long time. But with these effect units, who knows? They might. So one way you can deal with that is you can hold down A and press B, and it'll make a note off, and that'll just turn it off. So now it doesn't play in the background. It's not totally necessary for every plugin, but if you find that it's like you're like, well, why is that sustaining like way too much? It might be because it thinks about sound more like a MIDI keyboard, which is like, you know, you press the key and then you let it off, and that's what produces the like start and end of the envelope. It just kind of depends on the effect, but it's something to keep in mind. It might improve things if you do it that way. All right, so yeah, so I'm not even gonna mess with these ones that like break it. Like I know this one breaks it. I'm not really sure why, but it has like 4 effects in it. I think maybe it uses threading or something like that. I didn't take a very close look at it. Just know that yeah, plugins are kind of broken, but you might get them to work. And if you want to make your own custom thing that you can share with your friends, this is the way to go. And it's pretty amazing. Like when it works great. So, you know, this is working pretty good. Yeah, and the code to make this, it's just like a few lines of assembly script, which basically just looks like TypeScript or like JavaScript or something. Very, very simple code, highly optimized, and you don't need to recompile it. So you can just give this file to any of your friends or distribute it with your song file or whatever you want to do. Okay, so yeah. So one other thing is I included in examples, I included a bunch of like ready-made beats. They are set up for like standard, they're set up for like a standard general MIDI map. And I included this micro GM sound font in the examples, but you have to set the bank to 80 or 80, right? And so the reason for that is that this basically in general MIDI sound fonts, it usually triggers like give me the drums. There's other variations you can get in presets, but that's basically like drums. So here, let's listen to that. So you can hear C2 is roughly, you know, I'll just delete everything. C2 is roughly like kick drum, and there's a bunch of weird noises in there. So this map is pretty standard. So like D2 is like a regular snare, you know, that sort of thing. All right, so yeah, that's the idea with that. And so the reason I mention all that is because you can load, included in the examples, you can load any of the example beats I have. And so this is what comes with, it's like in the repo, and if you, like for example, if you use the script for Steam Deck, it gets installed along with the program. It'll download them for you. So here, let's grab it. And this is from this amazing book, Pocket Operator. The guy offers like PDFs for free on his website. Really, really great book though. Totally worth buying. He's also a very nice guy. So I converted all of the beats that are in the PDF. I converted them into my own little format here, so you can like load them, and they're very quick. So here's an example. So let's say that we want this one. This is a great beat. Now, everything matches up because they use general MIDI. This is the volume, so these are all set to kind of quiet. Not totally quiet, but kind of quiet. And it's on instrument 0 by default. Now you can change all those things just the same way you normally would, right? Like I could fill them all if I had an instrument on 0, but it's a good reason to just put a general sound font that's got the bank set to 80. It's a good reason to put that just on the first, on instrument 0. And so if we listen to this, pretty basic beat, but it's kind of nice that you can just like load whole beats and play around with them really quickly. Let's listen to, there's some nice hip hop ones. But yeah, so it's just meant to be like a start point, like kind of like a drum preset that you can override if you need to. So I would highly recommend putting on the first track, I'd recommend putting an SF2 with the drum bank set up, just so you can use that quickly. And again, there's variations. So like if we've got this going, uh, 10 or like 1-0 is like the power preset usually, and I think this one is like timpanis. Oh, it's 3. Okay, so 3-0 is like this weird orchestral timpani thing. You can use all these. You can use it however you want. You can even use it with other types of instruments, but they might not have the like really solid mapping that like classic general MIDI SF2 files are going to have. Like here's an example. So let's do an SFZ with some random thing that I'm probably made with like I probably scripted it, or it may have been included, but in the like sample pack that I got, but like it wasn't in the right key. Like it was off by like several octaves. You'll find that this happens all the time. Like things are just off, and it's because there isn't really a standard. But let's say that we want the boogie kit. Okay, so yeah, so that doesn't really sound right. I'm not sure why. We can check it. Well, actually, that's maybe not so bad. Let's see about the kick drum though. Well, you know what? I think this one, counter to what I just said, I think this one is actually mapped pretty good. Oh yeah, so this is a kick drum and this should be a snare. So let's look for something that's kind of like more like a snare. There we go. So you'll find this with these random SFZs. Usually within the same kit, if you get like a bunch of SFZs together, usually they kind of have the same mapping. So I can probably use other ones in here. Like let's try Dirty Color Kit from the same set. Yeah, so that's like the rim shot. None of these are really good snares. That's kind of weird. I guess I could use a clap, like old 80s dance music. Anyway, keep that in mind. SFZs are weird. SF2s are usually mapped right. There's definitely ones that break that rule though. I've got like some stuff for making SF2 tracks with like video game sounds, and lots of them are really screwed up. Like I don't think Kirby really follows that bank rule. Let's try it. Yeah, who knows what that is. This Fat Boy one, this follows it pretty well. I think most of these follow it, even if they follow it like really weirdly. Like this one, I don't think it actually sounds like proper drums, but it sounds like static that sort of fits in the right profile. Actually, that sounds fine. Game Boy Advance, eh? I really like this one. It has like an old like lo-fi kind of vibe to it. But you can hear it's way off. So like it's kind of got the closed hi-hat here, but it's a little rattly. It's kind of got the kick drum here, but this is like a tom or something. Let's fix it. There we go. E2. So yeah, keep that in mind. You might have to play with the instrument number if you're going to load different instruments, or you might have to play with like the actual notes where they hit. They're all separated though, so it's easy to see like this is the kick, and you know this is the snare and that kind of thing. And they do follow the general MIDI standard, so you can like look up what those numbers are if you want to know like what is this supposed to be? It's a close hi-hat, or what is this supposed to be? It's a kick drum, that kind of thing. This originally when I loaded it, it was a D2, which is a standard snare. Let's see. Let's look at another. Let's look at another beat example. Yeah, sounds pretty good. Pretty standard. So D2 here is the snare. I don't know what that is. Can't remember. Maybe open hi-hat. Yeah, so have fun with those. They're real small files. They're just basically like one pattern. It's very simple, and you know they're just meant to give you a starting point. They're not really like the final, you know, this is a perfect new wave beat or anything like that. It's just something to get you going, so you know how it all fits together or works or whatever. Another new feature I added was theming, which is pretty weird, but you can theme anything. And I also made a converter. Here, let me share my. I've actually got. Okay, so this is what my screen looks like when I'm developing. So if I run the actual thing here and I set a theme, I put a bunch in themes. So let's do cyber. It's basically just green, right? And then there's some other things that you can do. So like if we've got this, if you've got a theme for L, what is that one called? Well, so I made a converter for LGBT themes. They only have like a few colors, and mine has like a lot more, but it'll basically just, the script will convert it. So if you have like some old theme for that, it'll work. Essentially, if you want to look at the examples theme, this has every setting that you can change. And so you can, build up your theme however you want. These are all the defaults that are, if you use the built-in one. So let's look at let's look at industrial. So you can see it doesn't hide help, and it has a bunch of colors and all that. And here we can see what it looks like. Has kind of a green brown look. Kind of reminds me of Fast Tracker 2. I had a theme that kind of looked like this. I think by default Fast Tracker 2 is like blue, but I had one that looked kind of like this. Anyway, it's just a small thing, if it helps. But I like being able to change the colors. Another thing is that you can disable help, and so if you here, let's do let me just look at one of these help files. If you look at README, you can get kind of all this info, but well, I should have no help in here. Let me look at it for a sec. Sorry. No preview. Oh, maybe that was a feature that I didn't. Oh, never mind. No. So the idea here is you just put it in your theme. So yeah, that's why I was talking about it in the same breath. Okay. So we just looked at industrial. Let's hide help in there and load it now. And you can see it gets rid of the buttons, so it has more of a classic tracker kind of vibe. If you don't want I don't know, maybe the buttons aren't helpful or something. But yeah, that's the idea there is if, especially if you're sharing your screen while you're playing a show, it makes it look a little more inscrutable, which maybe is good if you're, maybe that's why you're sharing your tracker screen, I don't know. But yeah, you can turn it off if you want, so that's part of the theme. All of them have it on by default, so they don't hide the help. What else? I don't know if there's anything else I didn't cover. There's a lot of little scripts in here for messing with MIDI. I don't think I've talked much about that, but these Python scripts, if you want to convert things to MIDI, you can do it. Patterns and whole songs and things like that. It doesn't really know exactly how the mapping goes, and so you will probably have to play with the instrument mapping quite a bit. But other than that, it pretty much works. So if you have if you have something in MIDI that you want to convert, that will all work pretty well. If you want to see more about these plugins, have a look at where is it? I think in the README there's a little link to some different stuff, right? So you can see these example source code of the plugins. I would recommend looking especially at AS Clap. Like I said, these two actually have problems because they use threads, I think. I wouldn't recommend using threads. I don't think it even works at all on the web, and it works really bad on native. So I would just leave it out personally if I was making a plugin. Clack works okay, so you can test it out with that. And all of these kind of depend on what language you like, but you can try out different languages. There's a lot of examples in C, so it's a good language to choose if you don't really care. If you already know JavaScript and you like it, or TypeScript or whatever, assembly script is a great choice. And if you're already a Rust person, obviously look at Clack. It has some great Rust examples. What else? I think that might be it. Oh yeah, so another thing too is I've kind of moved the sample mapping, how instruments are set up. I've kind of moved that out of I've sort of moved that out of the editor. Typically a tracker will have a whole instrument section. If you go into Renoise or Fast Tracker or any of those, Impulse Tracker or any of those, there's a whole section where you can map keys and different volume regions to different samples, things like that. I wanted to leave all that out just because it's not great to edit those kind of things on a tiny screen with only a joystick. It's all kind of janky, right? It's a lot of stuff to do in a not very forgiving environment. And so my idea was, well, why don't we just make those mappings ahead of time? So we'll make an SFZ zip file, and ahead of time, and just, you know, you can use that. And then you can do all the mapping, and you can set it up however you want. And so these are all SFZ like zip files that I made. As I said, you know, you can get these from all over. I wrote a lot of scripts to kind of clean up some existing kits. But this is a really nice sample pack. So this has a ton of different samples, and I just wrote SFZ mappings for them to get them all working. So if we look at, let's look at acid drums. You can see each one of these has like a separate, you know, drum mapping, and you can play them, and you can look at the actual samples. They have loop points and all kinds of fancy stuff that you can do in here. One thing that's really that I think is interesting is if we load a sample. Let's see. I think I have some breakbeat samples just laying around. Like a lot of them are already wrapped up in SFZs, but yeah. So I have these like loose breakbeats. So let's find one like this. Okay. So if we play this, it's just a single note. And that works, right? Cool. But if you hit the breakbeat button, you can split this all up into little bits. And this is sort of, I'm sort of copying like Renoise's interface here because I really like the way they do breakbeat splitting and things like that. So a common pattern is that you already know how big your breakbeat sample is, and so you just break it at what makes sense, right? So let's say we already know it has 32 beats in it. We can just even split to slices, and we get this, and it just gives us 32 little slices. So let's hear what that sounds like. So that's pretty ready to go. I think you could definitely use that in a tracker. And so, you know, you would just sequence like each one of these notes. It starts at C2. But you can change that. So if you mess with the breakbeat stuff, you can change that. There's also some sort of basic effects in here where you can crop things, or you can normalize the volume, things like that. It's not very complicated, but the idea is like you can do basic editing in here. But I would recommend, if you're doing a lot of work on samples, obviously get a proper wave editor. I forget the name of the unbranded Audacity, but I think Audacity for a minute they had like a lot of like ads and stuff, and it was really annoying. But I think now if you download Audacity, it's okay. It's not so bad. So that's a good choice. It's free and open source and works on every operating system, so that's pretty cool. But whatever you do, just use a proper wave editor. Get your sample all chopped up, and then you can do a lot of things with this. Using the breakbeat, for example, you can do even splits, and this is a non-destructive edit, so it actually just keeps track of where the start and ends are. So if you have a big sample, you can just chop out all the pieces and reuse them. And so when I save this, here I'll export this, save this to an SFZ. So I could load this instrument one. I could load this directly into poketrack. But let's look at what it is. So it's just a simple SFZ file, which is it kind of looks like XML, but it's not. It's sort of similar, I guess. But and these just mark all the regions, and it says use this one sample over and over and over again, and just start at different places. Like start with different keys and retune it all back to like the default. And then you can see it only has one sample. So that zip file is ready to go, and if I use that, it works. But you could also tweak it if you want to change how it works, or whatever. SFZs are pretty easy to edit, honestly, but also this editor helps. So if you've done your breakbeat, right, and say you want to change how this works, you can grab onto this guy right here. It doesn't seem like it's working. Oh, there we go. Okay. So you can grab onto this guy and you can like kind of adjust it. It's a little hard because I have a track ball and it's hard to do fine movements. Maybe I should turn up the... Yeah, maybe that helps. Okay. So yeah, that kind of works. I don't know. The idea there is like, you can just chop up your thing. There's other SFZ editors though. You don't have to use mine. Just use whatever you want. This is a total standard. And it also works with like existing ones. So like, let's load one that's like a proper SFZ that was made by professionals. Like this one. Oh, well, that didn't work. Oh, there it is. Okay, just very slow. So this particular one is incredibly fancy. It has like samples for every like different amount that you press the key, and on every different node it has like different samples. So for example, this is all even the same volume, but they separately recorded that and that. And so these were all like individually recorded, and they pressed it at different amounts to get different volumes and recorded those separately as well. So this is a pretty realistic It's pretty realistic. But this works with all kinds of stuff, so feel free to do it however you want. Let's see what else we got here. I think I made some for some of these. I think these are pretty basic. Like this is probably just one sample. Oh no, this is a bunch. Let's have a look at another one. Acid look. So I see that it's only using one sample. It's just mapped to a bunch of different ones. I think that was true on the other one too, but it's because I didn't reload it. I'm going to reload the window to refresh it. But yeah, anyway, you can set up SFZs like this however you want. Each one of these keys can be mapped exactly. You can set up different effects. You can do breakbeats. You can do all kinds of stuff. So I'd highly recommend that for anything that you're doing with samples. If you need something more than just like play a sample at different speeds, which is what the basic sampler does. SFZ is like a more complicated version of the sampler that lets you load presets for all your stuff if you need that. I use it a lot for making drum kits. So that's like my key thing is like these drum kits like I gotta refresh again. So yeah, just having this this drum kit like all laid out so each one is like on the right place. That's how I like to make beats because it's much faster. Like you just roll through the notes, And also, this is kind of standard. So, like, if you've got like a MIDI, like a MIDI drum set or something like that, it'll work with this kind of thing. But anyway, so yeah, a lot of stuff that I covered here. Hopefully, that's helpful. Have fun.